What's it like having Cox Business Cloud Solutions with rapid response support? It's like taking your IT department and doubling it. Because with our experts backing yours, managing time-consuming tasks is now actually manageable. When Deborah clicks on a link she shouldn't have, Kate's there to help. When Javi needs to access his desktop in the cloud, Carla makes it happen securely. And when Rich needs to focus on the big picture, there's a team he can count on for the rest. Cox Business Cloud Solutions. The experts your experts can trust.
It's been 20 years since I last saw my brother. I'm sure he thinks about me a lot. I think about him a lot.
Cuando hablamos por video, cuando hablamos por llamada, se desarrolla aquel sentimiento, aquel lazo hermoso, pero la distancia es cruel.
When I left, it was really sad for me because I didn't know when I was going to go back down there.
He hecho muchísimo de menos a mi hermano.
My brother was like a father to me, so not being able to see him is very difficult. In the Latin American culture, physical touch is very important. ¿Sabes cómo se siente eso? Se siente como la primera vez que nos abrazamos después de no habernos visto. To be able to feel his hug again today, yeah, it took me back to 20 years ago.
Good afternoon, everybody. Anybody else out there tired of Zoom and audio problems? So this was actually intentional because I wanted everybody else to be as tired of Zoom as I am so we can start doing things in person again. So good afternoon. I'm Bob McKenna, President and CEO of the Virginia Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to the latest event in the Chamber's 757 Vision Eyes on the Future series, Transportation in the 757, an update. This highly informative and interesting series has focused on efforts that provide some optimism and excitement for a bright future. The Hampton Roads region and the peninsula specifically is home to many amazing assets as a great place to live, work, and play. The purpose of this series is twofold. Number one, to raise the level of awareness of our great assets. And number two, to discuss how we can best take advantage of those assets to reignite the energy, optimism, and sense of collaboration that were present before we ever heard of COVID-19. One of our first events in this series, back a year and a half ago, focused on the significant improvements that were happening on our local highways and at the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. Today, a very knowledgeable and talented panel is going to update us on those efforts. Please listen, learn, and participate. There will be time at the end of the panel discussion for questions from the audience. You can use the Q&A box for those questions. Before we get started, let me recognize some distinguished viewers. Mayor Donnie Tuck, Councilwoman Sharon Scott, Janet Lomax from Senator Kane's office, Drew Lumpkin from Senator Warner's office, Delegate Shelley Simons, Colonel Greg Ballou, commander of the 633rd Air Base Wing Command, and of course, our panelist, State Senator Monty Mason from Virginia's 1st District. One more thing before we get started, I'd like to thank today's presenting sponsor, also our series sponsor, Cox Virginia. Cox is a highly valued partner of the Chamber, and their sponsorship for these events make it possible to offer them at no cost. Representing Cox today is Barrett Stork. Barrett Stork is the Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Cox Virginia. He represents the company as a liaison between Cox and government officials at the local, state, and federal level. His team handles a variety of responsibilities, including legislative advocacy, regulatory compliance, franchise negotiations, and broadband expansion programs. Prior to joining Cox in 2011, Barrett served 3 years as an economic development volunteer with the U.S. Peace Corps in Romania, was a director of communications for a member of Virginia's General Assembly, and handled government affairs for the Hampton Roads Realtors Association. Over to you, Barrett. Barrett? Come on, Barrett, those audio problems weren't yours.
Hang on, how about there? How about there? We're coming in, I think, now. Am I starting to come in?
Earth to Barrett.
How about now? Anything?
I can hear you. I can
Okay.
hear you. I can't see you. That's all right.
All right, I think they have to turn my camera on, but we'll go with this for now because that's probably better for everybody involved. So, Bob, thank you so much. Very grateful to you and the Chamber for letting us continue to sponsor this amazing series. We're excited to hear from our speakers today because the state of transportation in Hampton Roads has a large impact on the ability of our region to grow and attract more businesses. Cox has actually been in Hampton Roads for more than 40 years. We've seen the region grow. Our employees live, work, and play here. You may not know that we actually began our journey back in 1898 as a newspaper publisher. We've now grown into the largest family-owned and operated broadband company in the country. We got to that point because we were continuously investing to bring our customers more services and benefits. Over the past 10 years, we've actually invested more than $2 billion in Virginia, and we're continuing to invest in our fiber-based network. We can offer right now to businesses up to 100 gigabit services. We can even help them connect to the transatlantic cables thanks to the connections we already have in place here. And we're also deploying more fiber into neighborhoods right here in Hampton Roads to meet our goal of offering symmetrical 10 gigabit service to all of our customers at home. These investments, along with others we're making, help ensure Hampton Roads is positioned to take advantage of great opportunities in the future. If you ever have any questions about the work we are doing, or if I could be of a service, please feel free to reach out to me. I will drop my email into the chat. And with that, Bob, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Barrett, and thanks to Cox for their continued sponsorship. Barrett, I wish you were turning it over to another moderator, but we're stuck with the backup moderator today. So I chose to be the moderator today because I knew I had such a talented panel that I didn't even have to ask any questions. So I'm just going to kick this right off by handing it over to Jim Utterback from the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Project. And Jim, can you please give us an update on what's going on the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel Project?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, I'm going to try to share a screen here if I can. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just go through. Bob, how much time do I have?
Well, a better question is how much time do you need, Jim?
I can do this in a good 10 minutes. 10
is that 10
okay?
minutes is great. Yeah, that's perfect. And that will generate some questions from the audience, I think. That's
all right. Maybe a little bit longer. Let's see what we have here. So, and I did brief this group, what, a year and a half ago, I think. So there's some of this I've tried to streamline a little bit. So just as everybody knows, this is a $3.8 billion project that not only includes a harbor crossing, but 10 miles of interstate capacity improvement. It is funded by the HRTF, which is the Hampshire Transportation Fund, managed by HR Tax. So 90%, 92% of the funding is here regionally. 8% is state and federal. BDOT is the owner and administering the contract. HR TAC is the funding partner, and the design builder is a joint venture with international firm Dragados USA is the lead. Vinci Grand Projects is one of the partners, and Flatiron is a partner as well. So they have a design joint venture as well. So let me go ahead with the next slide. So just so the crossing, and what I'm going to do is I'll show the same video in a minute that I showed last year. Is kind of begin with the end in mind. But this is the crossing. We start just to the west of Mallory Street, okay, and we come east from Hampton across the North Trestle, North Island.
Hey, Jim, your slides aren't advancing.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Oops. What do you see now?
So we're seeing the view of we're seeing the first slide, and then on the left side we're seeing the rest of the slides, but it's not advancing like a slideshow.
Okay. Let me see.
There should be a switch. No, there should be a display settings maybe. Yeah, swap that.
Swap.
Yeah, try that one.
Does that make a difference?
Okay, now we see the first slide, and that's all we see. Okay, now it's advancing. You're good.
Got it. Okay, so I have two monitors. I'm way too complex here, and so gravitating back and forth between the monitors. Okay, so this is the slide I just talked to. Okay, so this is the project partners and the budget and how it's funded. So I will spare that and go on to the crossing itself. So two twin lane tunnels, 5 bridges being replaced, and 23 bridges widened. So just less than a mile in Hampton and about 4 miles in Norfolk. So that's kind of a look at it. And I'll show the same video that I showed last year that starts kind of with the end in mind. So we're going, make sure it will go. Okay, here we go. So can everybody see that okay? So this is in Hampton going east, and we'll split screen this and show the existing with the future. Again, this roadway, the major part of this project is all of it is within existing right of way. Got one temporary easement right here in Hampton, but we go off and stay within the right of way. The two lane bridges that are there now are replaced with 2 4-lane bridges. We got a large island reclamation, which is complete now, and we're getting a structure to the island, and where both tunnels, the new tunnels will go eastbound. The existing eastbound will be turned westbound. When you come out on the Norfolk side or South Trestle, it will be one 8-lane structure that will carry traffic to and from Norfolk. As this turns around, and you can, if you've been out there, you've seen we've got a tree of piles and some of the caps starting as we're building that structure. It will tie into the existing within the right of way and continue across Willoughby Spit and into Norfolk. Again, you can see how tight it is. There is a number of maintenance traffic shifts coming up in the future, and we'll be communicating on those as well. Some of those, the major ones, won't start probably for another 10 months to a year. And I'll show you that some more in a minute. So from this point, we touch in Norfolk, go through Fourth View, and once we come down to grade, it's really just capacity widening. So the 2 inside lanes in each direction would be hot lanes or tolled lanes, and the 2 outside lanes would be the existing general purpose lanes. So let me just show some progress, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to follow it from west to east. So from Hampton to Norfolk. So you can see the Mallory Street Bridge, and this is where we're starting now. That's a four-phase construction. They've moved traffic to the north side of the bridge and demolished the south side. And that construction is moving along. One of the smaller bridges on the project, obviously one of the more difficult bridges based on its location. The North Marine Trestle, I'll show you this picture twice, but that's, if you take the video you just saw, you can see the two oranges outlines of bridges that we're building, and then you can see the red line is the outline of the island. So the Trestle, here's an aerial shot looking at the North Island, and then here's a shot looking back at Hampton. So you can see the pile operation, and they've started into the caps, and there's actually some girders set down here close to the shore. So they've started the next phase of construction. So that work is moving along. The island itself is pretty much done. You can see the reclamation. We've essentially doubled the size of the island. From that standpoint, you can tell by the darker blue rock, if you will, or dark gray rock coming around. And I got more on that in a little bit. So getting between the islands, and this has been one of the kind of I don't know, signature pieces of the project, is the tunnel boring machine. This will be the third roadway bore tunnel in the United States. The other two are in Seattle and Miami. So the machine is here. They do go through a process. We named it. Bob participated in the naming. So the name is Mary. So we're doing that. So it is in the yard. There are a couple parts on the island, and that really is the next big operation, is to start assembling the machine, which will take 4 to 6 months. It will go from the South Island to the North Island. It'll turn on a turntable. I'll show you that in a few minutes, and then come back to the South Island to complete its journey. There's the South Island. You can see it's the original is quite a bit bigger than the North Island. And this is where we stand right here. So the trisell, if you will, the large shaft there will be the launching pit for the TBM. And you can see that the bottom there is a TBM quay. So the large area here, this dock is where all the liner segments and a lot of materials will come in and out of there. The steel structure to the left coming off the island, again, at the bottom of the screen, is a conveyor for removing the material that's excavated out of the shaft and out of the tunnel. The South Trestle, we'll show you that again. This is how that 8-lane bridge looks, and you can see the piles as they're coming toward the island. At the bottom of the screen, I just pointed out, because this again will be a kind of thing, there's a maintenance of traffic trestle, temporary steel trestle that will carry traffic for actually a couple years, as we're going to move traffic over so that we can extend the island and have where the tunnel approach structure is, and get transitions from the island to the bridges. I'm trying to go a little bit fast so we have time for questions. This is Willoughby. So Willoughby has been made famous by the accidental crane going into the water that actually is in this barge up here right beside Willoughby. You can see the containment area that they have, and they are in the process of removing that barge. So quite a bit of work going on there. And there's at the Norfolk side of Willoughby as it's coming out. We're also rehabilitating that bridge as we go. Land side, just a big, right now, obviously we're preparing for the road work, but a lot of the work has been on the structure at Ostis Creek and Mason Creek. So this is going to be a fly through, if you will. So I'll just kind of take you through that so you can see a little bit better picture of the South Island from that standpoint, from a drone footage of the shaft itself. We are excavating it, so I think it's in different cells or in different areas. Again, this is the maintenance of traffic. So if you look at that shell, the shaft, you can see the way it's lined up. The road's going to come out here and then turn. So this has got to get out of the way so we can extend the island and bring the roadway out and then turn it. So that's why that shift is there, and this is a critical piece of the infrastructure going forward. But it'll come around to the side here in a second, but we'll go ahead and fly over the shaft. since you can't see any of this from the road, it is making progress. So the cell there is 3 that you see, and that's got to go down about another 15, 20 feet. The other ones have got to go down another 30 feet. So they go from -35 to -65. As you can see, the excavation, you want to get the machine fully in the shaft and get it level so we can start the excavation. Again, that's the TBM quay. They're almost done with that, and the conveyor to get the material off the island. A lot more work to go on this, but it's making its way. So that's the South Island, and the next shot will be the North Island. So you can see from the air, again, a good shot at the new reclamation and how big the island is with the work there. Let me just freeze that for a second. So the tunnel will come in kind of by the edge of these red containers here, and it'll go under into this round circle. It'll turn on a turntable and come back out on the outward bound side. So quite a, and this is a technique that we used at Port of Miami. They had 2 twin tunnels there. They bring them close together, turn them on the tunnel boring machine and the 4 gantries that follow it, and make basically about a piece of equipment is about 400 feet long. This will be the same. That circle will be excavated down quite a bit. They've got support walls there, and that's what we're putting in right now, is the support walls. Again, the transition from the island to the bridges, again, is the complex part. This eastbound trestle they're building to be able to shift the traffic. So the traffic actually is going to come up. Initially, we'll move the 2 lanes on here and bring them across here, and then across a temporary trestle to get into the existing island. So that, again, this is part of the first major traffic shifts that'll occur probably early next year. And it's another look at the piles a lot farther along on this end going into the project. So I think we're about done if you're hopefully not air sick. Again, this is the turntable where the machine will turn. Okay, and I'll just go through a couple more slides from that standpoint. So at this point, so far this is construction man hours, over 3 million man hours to date. This past month, well, January, they had 192,000 man hours, which is well over 1,000, 160,000. It's well over 1,000 people working on the job right now, with another several hundred to be added to the project as they get full scale on the road operations. It's been a big success so far with the DBE SWAM program. So you can see a large number of Virginia-based DBEs, and then also of the Virginia-based 80%, 64% of them are from Hampton Roads. You can see the workforce makeup. Community relations that Ha and Susan Roberts help us with, from social media, presentations, newsletters, podcasts. We've been trying to get the word out, encourage you to take advantage of that through our website and connection stuff here. So that is a run through of the project. So let me now try to stop sharing. Okay, everybody see, I made it.
10 minutes, were you timing yourself, Jim?
How did I do?
Well, I don't know, but usually when I'm told that it's going to take 10 minutes to get across the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, it takes about 20. So it may have been symbolic for you to run over.
Yeah. Time of day.
It will all be better in 2025. So I think we're going to hold off on questions for you until after Bob Crum. But I would like to ask just one question first before we go over to Bob. You said that the tunnel boring machine was named Mary. Can you tell the audience why it was named Mary?
Yeah, so there was a contest, and it's Mary Jackson, who was part of the Hidden Figures, the NASA Langley, one of the mathematicians that did some of the early calculations for the space flight. So And there's the middle schools or elementary schools, the ones that had a contest in naming it. So it was well done. Bob was part of the panel that helped select it. I think we made a good choice. So
yes, it was a good, and the schools did a great job of presentations and selecting names. So, okay, so I'm going to come back to you with a couple of questions in the end, and we've got a couple in the box already, but I'd like to hand it over to Bob Crum right now to talk about kind of a wider look at the highway projects in Hampton Roads.
All right, thank you, Bob McKenna. Can you hear me okay?
We get a little bit of an echo, but we can hear you.
You can hear me all right?
Yes.
If it's echoing, folks might be on, maybe you have to go to mute, Bob. It might be echoing through your microphone there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share screen and walk through. Jim's a tough act to follow. What great presentation slides that he has. I'm just going to check real quick. Senator Mason, since I see you on the screen, did that share okay? We're good to go? Excellent. So what I'm going to try to do is, as Bob McKenna said, is give you a little bit of an update of how this all fits together from a bigger regional picture. As I share this information, this is always something that my colleague and I, Kevin Page, the executive director from HR TAC, that we typically tag team. Kevin's a great partner in our region, really great leadership over at HR TAC. My organization, we prioritize and identify the transportation projects. And then Kevin, under the leadership of his board at HR TAC, they are the entity that is moving the funding to move these critical transportation projects. Bob, sort of starting with the end in mind, a few key takeaways that I hope the audience will take with them today that I sort of have on the screen here. The Hampton Roads region, as we sit here today, has one of the largest interstate highway construction programs underway in the entire country. You have right before your eyes now over $5.8 billion of transportation projects being advanced. And here's really the key takeaway. 93% of the funding for these projects are generated by the Hampton Roads region through HR TAC. I think you're all aware that back in 2013, through leadership of the Virginia General Assembly, an extra gas tax and an extra sales and use tax was formed in Hampton Roads. These revenues provide about $200 million a year to HR TAC. And the HR TAC board that Senator Mason's on, Mayor Donnie Tuck is the chair of, really uses this money to finance these critical transportation projects with Kevin Page, who's just done an incredible amount of work around these efforts. I'm going to share with you these projects, but right now they include nearly 200 lane miles of improvements. And here's another key point. There are federal loans into these projects, but no federal grants. This is really regionalism at work, where the revenues generated through the local governments in Hampton Roads through the HR TAC are really driving the implementation of these projects. So this is a look at the map of the projects that to me seems believing a little bit. So let's just bounce through these very quickly. The first project that you saw completed with these regional monies was segment 1 of the I-64 Peninsula widening that, of course, we were all excited to begin driving. That was quickly followed by completion of segment 2 that took you the whole way up to Busch Gardens. And just before the new year, we were really excited about cutting the ribbon on segment 3. Here you see some of the leaders that are on the HR TAC board. Mr. Tom Shepard from York County, Michael Hipple from James City County, Mayor Donnie Tuck, chair of HR TAC, Senator Mason, and others on December 20, all cut the ribbon on the third phase of widening of I-64 on the peninsula. That takes that widening to just west of Williamsburg. That leaves about a 30-mile gap, more specifically 29 miles that remain between where our widening improvements leave off to the Bottoms Bridge Road interchange up near Richmond. The cost of that 30-mile gap widening is about $700 million. So that's what we have before us. But I think we all know that this is really, really critical. Now, we are excited that the General Assembly, while they have not been able to reach a budget agreement yet, we do know that there's discussion about whether or not some monies could be allocated towards this gap. Now, reasonable expectations, it won't be the entire gap, but hopefully we can get enough money through the General Assembly to continue to pick away at this gap mile by mile. So, Senator Mason, we know that you'll be representing us and fighting for that in Richmond, and appreciate your advocacy in that regard. You already heard from Jim on the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel project. I'm not going to go over that information again, but you know, think about this as a network. We start up in the peninsula, we come down the peninsula, you tie into the improvements that Jim just outlined for you. You go down to the south side, you go past 564, and then you approach the I-64-264 interchange. That's another project that's been funded, prioritized by our region and funded with the regional tax money. Phase 1 was complete fall in 2021. You're going to see improvements finalized. I talked to Chris Hall. They're cleaning up some improvements there. That will be fully completed down the Witch Duck when we get to Memorial Day. This is a dated photo, but this is the Greenwich Road flyover. You're going to have the Welcome to Virginia Beach sign. That there will be a nice finishing touch in this project. As we move further down on the south side, just as excited as we all are about the HRVT project, the upgrades and completion of the high-rise bridge project and I-64 south side, and the progress we're seeing there, we're equally excited about. These are improvements that will go from Greenbrier. They will widen Greenbrier, I-64 from Greenbrier the whole way through the high-rise bridge, the whole way out the Bowers Hill. What's going to happen there is, and you can see from this photograph, if my cursor shows up, the existing bridge is going to stay in place. What that will do is it's going to move 4 lanes of traffic from the Greenbrier area in Chesapeake towards Bowers Hill and the Bowers Hill interchange. Then the newer bridge is being built higher. It's going to come from the Bowers Hill area and come back towards Greenbrier, Chesapeake. It will bring 4 lanes of traffic in the other direction. It really served to address a critical bottleneck on the south side. This project, we're hopeful, VDOT's hopeful, will be completed in late 2022. If it slips a little, it will be complete next year at this time. So you're about 9 to 12 months away from that completion, which is really exciting. This, of course, a huge benefit to mobility and traffic. Then we're going to move towards the environmental studies are being refined at Bowers Hill, and hopefully that allows us to take the turn and start moving northward on 664 as we head back towards the peninsula. So what this shows is what those projects look like from exit 234 up west of Williamsburg. You've heard about improvements today. The gray part are the 3 segments of I-64 already in place. From there, you're going to have the improvements that go through the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel around the south side past 264, continuing through the high-rise bridge the whole way out to Bowers Hill. I'll conclude by saying that in yellow here, what's going to tie these improvements together and really get the most throughput from these improvements is something called a regional express lanes network. And I'll just wrap up with 2 slides that talks about what that is. What you're going to see in our region is a HOT 2 or a high occupancy toll 2 expressway system. What that means is we used to have HOV2 lanes. In HOV2 lanes, you were only allowed to ride in those lanes if it was 2 or more people in the car. Well, with HOT 2, I have 2 options. Number 1, if it's me and another person in the car, I can ride for free. Or if it's just me in an automobile, I can pay a modest toll and I can use my Easy Pass and I can ride over, I can jump over and ride in them as well. What our initial use of hot lanes in the south side show is about 16 to 18% of the traffic chooses to move over into the hot lanes. This will be a cohesive network the whole way around the ring, which is something that we think is really going to maximize throughput and make take the best advantage of our improvements. And I'll just wrap up with one final slide. If we found when we modeled, if we looked out to 2040, 2045, and if it was all 3 lanes, we found that we'd see a lot of congestion. But with managed lanes, we wanted to show you what the trip's going to look like in about 20 years from 564 going the whole way to Settlers Landing, or 9 miles. The general purpose lanes will eventually fill up due to growth and traffic increase, but these hot lanes, we're going to be able to guarantee you a trip of at least 45 miles an hour, which will mean that for the hot lanes, you'll be able to make that trip in about 12 minutes. And what we're excited about is for every for every person that moves into the hot lanes, that frees up additional traffic, additional capacity, and more mobility for those in the free general purpose lanes. So Bob, I'll wrap up there, turn it back to you. Again, key takeaway, one of the largest highway construction programs in the country. And it's really fun to not just be talking about these, but to see them being constructed right before our eyes. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. As usual, some great takeaways from your 10 minutes of discussion there. I've always said that the old commercials about E.F. Hutton, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen, applies to Bob Crum, because anytime Bob Crum talks, I'm listening to what he has to say, even and like today when he said wrap up 4 times and he kept talking, but he kept saying more interesting things, so I kept listening. So thanks, Bob. Just asking for a friend, the hot 2 people in a vehicle, that's by the honor system, right? So I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, you're going to, it will be enforced by license plate, Bob. So there is an opportunity for violation. But you know, I think what we see is that with any level of a new system, you know, there will be a transition period, but we're seeing pretty successful use on the south side. Excellent.
Thanks very much, Bob. Senator Mason, over to you. And I'm just going to start off by saying Senator Mason is on the HR TAC board, which Bob Crum mentioned. He's also our representative at the state level. And we know the General Assembly just wrapped up their session a few days ago. So he has all kinds of free times on his hands now. So he was so gracious to join us. So Senator Mason, can you talk a little bit about that 29-mile gap and what may be done with the General Assembly this session, which is wrapping up, and then maybe moving into the next year or so?
Absolutely. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Good. Well, thanks for having me. You know, I enjoy doing panels with Jim and Bob, but I'm kind of the also-ran. You know, Jim's got probably the coolest project in the United States of America right now, and he's got great views and pictures, and I'm just enthralled with Mary, the boring machine. And then Bob's E.F. Hutton, so he tells you and lays out the world, and then you end up with me. I know it's kind of a thud, but hopefully when we talk about a little bit of money, we'll talk about some of the opportunities to get that last 29 miles done. First and foremost, in the past, you've heard of $93 million that we included. That was really for HR TAC and for the shoring up a gap in the funding of the financing of the express lanes. But in that money, we talked about that if in fact we don't use it all, it could end up coming back. Sorry about that. I'm so loud. I'm running people out of the office here down the hall from Bob, so I apologize. So we talked about maybe some of that money would be available for the final all the way to Richmond. Turns out that as we start looking at the projects that we have funded, that money is going to be needed for our express lanes. And so we are not going to be able to utilize that very likely for the widening. But good news is this year the Senate has included $190 million in our budget to try to get that project started. Now, it is earmarked for the 9 miles to New Kent County, finishing up James City County, which is an HR tax purview, but through New Kent County. Talking to Kevin Page this morning at our HR Tax Finance Committee, there could be some possibility that we could use that money to draw down federal money that may even get us close to doing the entire project. You heard Bob say 700 million when we started talking about this. I think it was 400, 500. So these numbers are gargantuan and continue to grow, which is an emphasis on why we need to get it done, why we need to move forward and make sure that we finish all the way to Richmond. There has been an unsolicited proposal from a public-private partnership that wants us to put in a significant amount of money. They would put in a significant amount. That would include hot lanes and revenue sharing. That has not been pursued to this point. There's a very formulaic way to go and vet proposals like that. So if in fact that would be a consideration in the future, we would go through that. I mentioned our HR Tax Finance Committee meeting this morning, and Kevin Page and the team of lawyers and financiers and just the staff here are just amazing. I mean, each meeting we have, we talk about using different funding mechanisms in order to save us substantial amounts of money on the overall project. Last year, we took a different funding mechanism that's going to save us $50 to $70 million over the life of the transaction. Bob mentioned the 1 year delay on the high rise. That's not all that bad. We're going to extend one version of financing that we have in place and not go to the second mechanism for about another year. That's not going to save us a ton of money, but it's going to save us some money and make the project more affordable. And then just today, we talked about the ability to refinance or to put to bed old loans at a higher interest rate and take advantage of the market that we find ourselves in now, and maybe even cut our interest rate in half, which could, again, save us over the course of the project upwards of $70 million. So this is really the gold standard in my view of projects and has been managed so incredibly well. And as we've talked about, it's really been a life changer on the peninsula as we've widened by putting those three projects together. Now, one of the reasons you're going to see us starting January of 23 up in the Hampton area, getting on that side of the river, kind of in the Settlers Landing, LaSalle world. Then you're going to see in May of that year, segments. We just voted today to split segment 1, which is kind of from the south side at Willoughby all the way to 264 into projects 1A and 1B. That is where we are seeing significantly more cost. We're about $160 million more for that segment than we anticipated. So I circle back that to we absolutely will need the $93 million that we thought could conceivably go into finishing the job to Richmond. So it is going to cost us a bit more in that segment, but we remain financially sound, solid as a brick, and really on target to get these projects started in early and late 23. I want to close with a lot of conversations you're hearing coming out of Richmond. There's a Senate budget that looks to return some money to taxpayers, but to really invest in a lot of critically important projects. We've talked about the widening of 64 all the way to Richmond as being one. The House budget really focuses much more on the governor's direction to return the bulk of the money to the taxpayer. We will find a compromise and we'll get this work done, but we are quite a ways away as the two budgets ended. I want to point out to our crowd and our business people here that you hear a lot of conversation. We had a new delegate this year offer a bill to press pause on the state fuel tax increase and any regional tax increase. Well, we made a decision in Southeastern Virginia to tax ourselves and put the money towards our priorities and the things that we want to do. And you see it's coming to fruition with Jim's incredible project and Bob's laying out to you the roadmap for the future. We need to resist as we govern and as we look to lead our community. We need to resist the easy talk track of pressing no new taxes, pressing pause on taxes, and make sure as a business community, as localities, we all work together to focus on the work at hand, the great work being done, and the money necessary to complete and continue those projects. One that I'll throw out for you, Fort Eustis interchange has been on the roadmap. It now does not seem to be on the roadmap, but the Denby Boulevard connector that you see work being done is on the roadmap. I believe that on the peninsula, we have the opportunity to review with new sets of data. Let's look at what is the widening done for Fort Eustis there? What would the alleviation or the opening of an interchange at Denby do? So this is not static information or a static discussion, but we need to keep our own ball on the peninsula to look towards the improvements that have been made and see how are they going to impact things that are going to go forward. And that is not exclusive to the peninsula. Since we are at the Peninsula Chamber, I just thought I'd highlight 2 projects on that side of the river. But I'll close on, we have worked incredibly well together as a region. When the high-rise bridge wasn't quite ready to roll, we put segment 1, 2, and 3 on the peninsula together, combined them to work towards completion of the widening to the James City County up to Upper 199. Then we came back when the high-rise bridge was ready to roll and made it work. That's regional cooperation and regional collaboration, and this project has been the hallmark of that. We need to keep it up. Thank you, sir.
Outstanding. Thanks, Senator Mason. And let me ask you so you answered a couple of the questions I actually had written down for you. I wanted to talk about the HB 297, HB 1059 bills that suspended the regional fuels tax. I've always looked at that taxing ourselves, but seeing tangible evidence of our taxpayers' money at work. Those were great examples of just that. So I'm glad you touched on that. Can you take a step up, maybe a higher view, and talk about why these highway projects and why the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel project is so important to our economic growth as a region?
Oh, you could take my morning coming from Williamsburg to Chesapeake and just how important it is. You know, Bob and Jim always show you these models of the traffic flow, but they have measured down to, what it takes to average 45 miles an hour and the time that it takes to get throughput. And then as you reduce that, what it means. Obviously our visitors and tourism being the backbone of this region, during the summer months, we need people to be able to come and go and get from the peninsula to the south side and vice versa. The port is just an enormous economic engine in this state and in this country. Being able to move goods to the port and from the port are of critical importance. And also the ability to do so really is a key determinant in companies deciding where to locate, where to do business. How quickly can you get in and out and access a major thoroughfare to get to other states and regions, be it by highway or by rail? We should also not forget passenger rail to the peninsula as we finish the new station up in Denby or Bland there. We need to continue to push for and make sure that we get that third train, because that too will alleviate some of the pressure off of our highway. So, just being able to confidently come and go and to gauge whether for business or pleasure, your ability to get through to point A to point B is so critical. And we're making the important investments in order to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. And that's, I certainly could not have said it as well, but I've been thinking the same thing. So thanks for always joining us on these. You're always well-informed, willing, and entertaining. So you're not playing third fiddle here to Jim and Bob. We appreciate you being with us. So a couple of questions from the audience. First from Chris Stone, who is actually the chairman of the South Side Chamber, the Hampton Roads Chamber, asked, this is for Jim Utterback. Jim, can you speak briefly about how the future impacts of climate change and sea level rise has influenced the design both for the bridge tunnel and the approach roadways?
Okay, sure. So I think let me answer that. Obviously, the islands are fixed and the land is fixed. The existing structures are low. Now, as you know, there's quite a bit of damage to these with just the wave action that hits the trestles currently. So the new trestles will be 6 to 8 feet higher than existing facility. Some of that was obviously resiliency and trying to get the bridges above the splash zone, if you will, particularly the south trestle. So we are limited by the existing land and conscious that we're going toward a tunnel, so we don't want to create a roller coaster, if you will, from that standpoint. So the short answer is yes, the marine bridges will be raised.
Okay, thanks. So the next thing I'm gonna jump over to the chat room on this one. This is for you also, Jim. Senator Mason mentioned something about the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel project being, and I don't remember if he said it's the most exciting project in the nation or in the Commonwealth or in the region, but probably all three apply. Crystal Bright, who is a board member at the Peninsula Chamber, challenges that. She said maybe he has the second most exciting project behind Dominion Energy's offshore wind project. So over to you, Jim. I'd like you to address that one.
I don't think I can debate that one. I've seen some of the offshore wind is a tremendous project. I think the thing that makes the HRBT unique is the risk profile. So you want to call it exciting, I call it risk. So on a project like this, and roadway projects and building projects typically are de-risked quite a bit when they come out of the ground. So once you get out of the ground, you really are in control of most of your risks are unknown. This project will not de-risk until the end of 2024 when the second tunnel is bored. So the TBM breaks out on the South Island. And that's really something that people don't recognize, and we're planning hard and working and trying to mitigate all of these things. But at the bottom of the, at the end of the day, we are mining underneath the federal channel for it's a mile and a half, 3 miles of tunneling. So it is from an exciting standpoint, I don't like that word that much, but this has never been done. So that I can find anywhere in the world where you board between two man-made islands in the middle of the harbor. So this is a new kind of endeavor, as we will, and we will keep going. So does that answer the question?
Good answer. And I would say, boom, your project is more exciting. Sorry, Crystal. Okay, so Crystal also has a question. Will there be a toll charged for the new tunnel? Bob addressed it for the hot 2 lanes, but will there be tolling at the tunnel?
I mean, the bottom line, this is part of Bob's network,
that,
if you will.
Yeah.
So it really is kind of the linchpin in getting across the harbor. So basically the inside 2 lanes in each direction will be the hot lanes. So you'll have one of the new tunnels will be hot, and then the existing eastbound and turns westbound will be hot, if you will.
Okay, last question from the audience for you, Jim. Do the existing bridges get completely demolished?
Yes, they are completely demolished.
All right, and I have one also for you, Jim. Sorry, Bob, I don't have any questions for you because I've heard it all before, and I've learned pretty well at your briefs before. Can you tell us about the HRBT Expansion Project's OJT program?
Yeah, we do have a OJT. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I hate to guess, but I mean, it's a number of folks are in it and have gone through the program. So there is an active program. I mean, the number, I just don't want to guess. I mean, it is, I think I know what it is, but I don't have it in front of me. So we do have an active OJT program.
Okay, thank you. And I'm reading in the chat box, Mayor Tuck is saying statements like that are how fights get started. I think he's talking about my statement. So I don't take it back. Sorry, Mayor Tuck. I still think this is the most exciting project. And I'm reading further down in your chat, and apparently you think it's the most exciting project in the nation. So I agree with you, sir. All right. Do we have any more questions for the from the audience? Somebody's got their hand raised. Let me see who. Well, I'm not gonna call on you. Can you put it in the chat box or in the Q&A? I'm not, oh, it's Valerie Gaines and Nina. Nina, can you type fast and put it in the chat box? Sorry, she doesn't. Oh, never mind. Mayor Tuck was, he was talking to Crystal Bright. He wasn't lecturing me. Okay. All right. Wait, here's one in the chat box. Oh, Nina said she didn't raise her hand. Never mind. No more questions. You guys are off the hook. I think you kind of answered everything in those great presentations. Senator Mason, do you have any closing statements to make?
Well, Crystal's comment about the offshore wind project is a great example of companies that have the opportunity to locate here. I mean, we have an unimpeded port, so we can stage a lot of this work for the East Coast, I hope. And you know, we've talked about now for a couple of years how this is a fully mature industry in the rest of the world, but just getting started here in Virginia. So we've seen some companies located here. We're putting some incentive money towards helping companies come here and trying to get the infrastructure prepared and ready for them to produce and do business here. But again, these roads and our network of being able to get supplies in and out go well beyond the port. And so it's just a huge example of an industry that we're right on the forefront of expanding and blowing out in Virginia. And we just need to get Jim's project and keep these express lane projects moving so that we can keep traffic to and fro. And, you know, and we have to consider climate resiliency. I mean, and making sure that the new roads we build are able to withstand climate change and sea level rise, and then deal with some of the work we're doing, which Hampton and Mayor Tuck can tell you a great deal about some of the cutting edge projects that they're doing there to try to mitigate against issues that they already have. So it all weaves in together.
All right, Jim, do you have any closing statement?
Bob, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share on the project, and more to come. I think that just the reality is the traffic getting through this construction zone over the next 4+ years is going to get much worse before it gets better. So these, you know, the question around the replacing the bridges, we're not closing HRBT, so there's still roughly 100,000 vehicles going through here. And when we start putting people on temporary trestles and having them make 2 or 3 turns when they were used to going straight into the tunnel, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging. So just everybody's patience, but thank you for the opportunity to share the project, especially with the Senator Mason and Bob Crum. This is a great couple guys to be associated with.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks very much. Bob Crum, over to you.
So I guess, Bob, being the regional guy, let me maybe draw a consensus here. But I really think that we talked about the excitement of the offshore wind project, the excitement of HRBT, but just thinking about it more broadly, if you think about the fact that Jim's able to do this project with the directionally bored tunnel, which means we go underwater, we don't block the shipping lanes for the port, we don't block the travel lanes for the military. Then you transfer that over to offshore wind. We're the only harbor on the East Coast that doesn't have vertical obstructions due to these bridge tunnels. So it's such a nice way for the two projects to come together and complement one another. And really an exciting opportunity that, you know, Jim's project's really going to increase that mobility between Peninsula and South Side. And it's really going to allow us to be uber competitive for the offshore wind supply chain, since we can move those parts and those components out of our harbor without any vertical obstructions. So really exciting time to be in Hampton Roads in the 757. And Bob, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Bob, for always being willing to join us and for talking. So the thing that I think most about both of the projects that were mentioned today, not just the transportation, but the offshore wind, is it takes a lot of collaboration and coordination within our region. So that old tired idea that we don't collaborate in Hampton Roads is just that, an old tired idea that's in the past. It's in our rear view mirror, and we are collaborating, and there's a lot of energy and optimism and excitement for the future. And this is a big part of it. And this series is, as I mentioned before, the intent of this series is to point out the great things that are going on here on the peninsula and in Hampton Roads, and in an effort just to inform you all and to get you all excited like we are. So I hope you've enjoyed the program today. Thanks to our distinguished panelists, and thanks to our moderator, our humble moderator, for very good reasons. And today's recording and recordings from the past events in the series are available on our website for you to take a look at. And I'd also like to solicit your input as to what subjects you would like to see in future 757 Vision panels, because we're going to do them every month into the distant future. And at some point, maybe after the initial problems we had today, maybe very soon, we're going to go to live panels and live events. So I hope you'll join us for that also. So thanks once again to Cox, Virginia for making the event possible. And thanks to all of you who joined us. I hope to see you all soon in person. God bless. Take care.